The 2020 U.S. presidential election campaign now in its final 100 days, the Ruderman Family Foundation has released a position paper which unpacks the defining issues of what the document describes as a watershed campaign for U.S. Jewry's deep engagement in the American political process. We heard more about the paper, authored by the foundation and Professor Gil Troy, distinguished scholar in North American history at McGill University, from Ruderman Family Foundation Executive Director Shira Ruderman. Tell us a little bit about the paper, why it was carried out, and some of the findings.
So our work in the Ruderman Family Foundation, when it comes to strengthening the relationship between American Jewry to the State of Israel, so we do a few major actions in order to make sure we understand the changes, the dynamics, the differences, and see how does it impact each community and what's the relationship between these issues to either the State of Israel or to the Jewish community. So in this regard, we did, in the last election, a paper with Professor Troy to see what is the power of the Jewish vote, what are the motives or reasoning of how people behave, and what does it have to do with the political system in the United States. And as a result of it, we, 4 years after doing this paper and checking again, did something change? What's the differences? What does it mean? How does it impact the relationship? So this is why we're doing this paper. I think that we are in a very interesting time when it comes to the United States political system. When it comes to the Israeli political system, there is no political agenda here, it's important to say. It's really to study the data, to understand the impact of each action. So we learned that the domestic issues in each country really affecting certain behaviors, certain, opinions. So I think one goal that we had in mind is to make the Israeli public understand when a Jewish person in the United States votes, he doesn't just vote for the U.S. Israel or the position that he has towards or about Israel. It really has a lot to do, and mainly to do, with the domestic issues that as a citizen of the United States you deal with. Of course, won't be any surprise to any of us that we, as Jews in the United States, do check and do care very much about the positions when it comes to the State of Israel of the candidate, when it comes to the relationship over the years with the community, the involvement of the Jewish community within the political system. And I think it's, maybe won't surprise some of us, but I think it's important to understand that there is a great connection between the relationships that American Jewry has with a relationship to how they view themselves as citizens of the country and involved in the political system. And at that point, I think the white paper proves that.
Well, this isn't necessarily a new revelation, or you're saying that it is for this particular election.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we are part of, all of us, very challenging times politically. The fact that, if you look at the last election, when it came to the Jewish vote, 3 candidates were having a direct relationship with the Jewish faith, which is for itself amazing. And here, when you talk about Donald Trump, I don't think it is new to us to say that the American Jewish community has some internal domestic challenges. It's not aligned with their views on the American political system, the American society, and this tension that maybe we as Israelis experience that he is very good for Israel on many things, does not always support their internal domestic issues or even political views. And it's a problem because if you think about, how do I vote, right? Like, you go and ask yourself, is the candidate committed to Israel? Does he care about diversity? And then you ask yourself, but does he do it in the day-to-day in our society? There is a gap that does not always make it easy for a voter to make this decision. And I think we, as Israeli society, have to be aware of the challenges. Do not always have to see that any choice that someone does here is not necessarily in correlation of the fact that they don't care or not committed to the state of Israel. The opposite. I think what this white paper finds, from the left to the right, from the right to the left, to make it clear that's not political, the Jewish community, from really all spectrums, really feel connected and pro-Israel in terms of their actions, views, and politics, which I think is amazing, because we thought for a long time that, the majority of the Jewish community does not feel connected. And here we find that they really feel connected, and they care, and they feel committed to the state of Israel. I think also to understand the financial involvement of the Jewish community within the two parties is really amazing to see how effective and meaningful it is. And it's in both parties, so it's not one party. Both parties have tremendous support from the American Jewish community or from Jewish funders. And the other interesting finding is that we're talking about within the Jewish community, the percentage of people voting is between 85% to 95%, depends on the state, when the general public in the United States, the percentage of voters on 50%.
So what you're saying is that the Jewish American community is more engaged politically in the United States, whether, as you said, it's support within the parties or being actively voting and participating in that process, compared to other population groups, and also perhaps compared to their proportion as part of the U.S. population.
Correct, absolutely correct. And I think it's a stunning, first of all, I think it's good news for the fact that we as people care, take responsibility, are active members of our societies, go, vote, engage, mobilize other people. I think it's something that we can be very proud of. In the same time, the impact of it is significant. We are a small percentage, of population, and in the same time, one of the highest communities that take active role in politics or in society in regards of voting. Therefore, it is very important how, the Jewish community vote, and why both candidates or other candidates over different kinds of elections care about the involvement of the Jewish community. And why we think it's important to know about it, because I think we need to learn in Israel to appreciate that. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of financial involvement. It takes a lot of years to build relationships. And it matters. It matters because at the end, who will be the president of the United States is important to, of course, first and most to the United States as a country, but also has a great impact on our relationship. Can we maintain this relationship? Do we understand how the dynamics work? Can we try to separate maybe ideology and politics from understanding that strong relationship between the two countries are always important, no matter who is the president? And I think these conversations and the data help engage people in these processes and make them more aware, more knowledgeable.
Do you think that there is a perception in Israel that Jewish voters in the United States should be voting based on the candidates' attitudes towards Israel?
I think that most of us, meaning Israelis, do think about the candidate in relationship to the state of Israel. Do they care? Do they don't care? Are they good with us and they're not good with us? And it makes sense. When you live in the other side of the world and you're not a citizen of or resident of this country, you don't really care what's the policy on guns or abortion or tax. You care about what does it mean to me. In the same time, what we try to emphasize is that if people vote A or B, it doesn't mean they don't care about Israel. And this tension, sometimes that caring about Israel and caring about domestic issues can be tricky or conflicted or not be aligned all the time. And I don't want to be judgmental of anyone of how they vote, but I do want to make it clear to us as a country or the Israeli citizens that it's not simple. It's not. When I go and vote today, I do think, is it aligned? What's more important to me? And of course, we as Israelis say, rightfully to our needs, Israel is first and most important issue. But it's not like that for a citizen that lives in Massachusetts or California or even in Texas. It's not always about the foreign policy towards the state of Israel, although I said it again and again. For us, it's the most important thing. And the purpose of this data is to show that first, the Jewish community is committed and does care. B, that they are involved and they go and vote, they take action. And I don't want any of us to take it for granted and to understand that it happens in both sides of parties. It's not it's not just Republican or Democrats. They take part in both. And I think that this coming few months will be interesting, challenging, and we need to keep emphasizing that no matter who is going to win, both candidates have to stand up for the relationship, be committed to the relationship, and we'll see how these elections and this period will look like to all of us.
Finally, does this data and does the paper give a sense of what are some of the driving issues that are of most concern to the Jewish voters in terms of how they broke down?
I can say that the paper says, for example, that 43% of the Jewish community think that the healthcare system is one of the most important issues today in the United States. 28% think that, dealing with violence or riots or gun violence is extremely concerned issue. That and 21% think that the welfare issues needs to be addressed. So I think that, won't be much different to say that the healthcare challenges, something that the secular society is very consumed with and very bothered by, and the reflection of it can be proved by the fact that 43% of the American Jewish community thinks it's the number one issue.
Well, certainly healthcare has been a significant issue, but perhaps even more so in light of our current situation in these times.
Absolutely. I think that the COVID raised significant questions when it comes to access, when it comes to who can afford, who can be admitted, whose life are first on the line, who has health care, do you really go to the doctor? And this issue is really in the front of a lot of the conversations today. I think this is something on the personal note that maybe I hope that the United States can look at systems like the State of Israel actually and learn from us that, yes, it is important that everyone will have access. And therefore, we need to keep making sure that our strength between the countries are strong, that our Jewish community gets support, and we build a partnership and relationship with the Jewish community, not just on times of need. So when things are good and when politics takes place, our relationship will be secure with each other.
Shira Ruderman, Executive Director of the Ruderman Family Foundation.